Oh my god, always raining when I want to go out. Alright, here's the thing. Have you guys ever gotten your license, your 2B or your 2A license, and then you thought to yourself, I've got my 2B license, I'm gonna, get into enduro or motocross, and I like to get myself a beginner dirt bike. And then you go through the list of all the decent enduro and motocross bikes, and you realize they usually come in one displacement for the beginner class, and that is 250. And then you're like, oh, what? Do I have to wait until my 2A to even begin riding motocross or enduro? And then once you get to your 2A, and then maybe I should get a bigger a motocross bike, and all you see is 450s. So you have to wait until your class 2 before you can get to the next step. And that's the thing. I think our country's class 2B and class 2A licensing tiers are stupid. Now my example with motocross bikes is just one. I mean, yes, in our class 2B tier, you can definitely get dual sports and dirt bikes under the 200cc range, but they're usually either 2-strokes that are out of production and usually not road legal anymore if they are still in production. Otherwise, they are this really swanky 200cc dirt bikes that are really more for the road than off-road. If you're a sport bike enthusiast, well, nowadays the trend has been focusing on 250s, 300s as beginner sport bikes. You don't really see much under 200s anymore. I mean, Indonesia and Thailand makes a few 150cc sport bikes, but those are really less of sport bikes and more of commuter bikes. Then when you get your class 2A, same thing with the sport bikes, man. After you're sick of your 150 or 250 or whatever, and then you want to move up, the only logical step up is really the 600cc super sports, because the 400cc sport bikes are all pretty old by now. I mean, if you were to logically look at all the 400cc sport bikes, most of them aren't really new, and they don't really sell new 400cc sport bikes anymore. And of those 400cc sport bikes that are still being in production, they're all made in Japan for the Japan market, and if you want to get that brand new, it's parallel imported. I mean, look at Malaysia. Malaysia has pretty much wisened up. I think they moved their licensing tiers to 250 and 500 respectively, versus our 200 and 600, 200, 400 over in Singapore. So at least Malaysia has wised up to their tiering system. The rest of the world has pretty much moved on. In Japan, it's 400 everything. In Europe, for example, I mean, I'm going to exclude the A2 because that's for kids. I mean, the A1A license is pretty much somewhere around the ballpark of a 400 and open, depending on the power of the bike itself, not the CC. But I mean, if you would convert it to CC in Europe, it's usually about something like a 400 for an A1 license holder. I mean, Singapore's current licensing system, the 200, 400 and everything else, is really just a holdover, a product of its times. I think it came out in what, like the first real document I've ever seen, specifying the displacement size was like 1985. I mean, come on, back in 1985, everybody was riding stuff that was like under 750. I mean, and that's pretty much the most powerful bike you could get on the streets. And for the most part, most people rode under 200s, 125cc two-strokers which are pretty much equivalent to a 250, you know, 4-stroke. So I mean, it's kind of understandable that, you know, back then you needed to limit it to 200 and 400 respectively, because you know, the kind of bikes being used were mostly 2-stroke that were a bit more powerful than their 4-stroke counterparts in terms of top speed, and that's what the bikes being produced were usually around. So I mean, it made sense then, but I mean, like what, 30-40 years later and we're still having the same system. It's kind of stupid, and I need to get around this stupid lorry and van. They are so slow. I mean, it's not as if you can't get bikes under 200cc when you get your Class 2B license. You can, but it just doesn't make sense to restrict it to just 200cc, because the truth is the 200cc and below class are 100% just for commuting. If you are getting into riding as a hobby and you want to get something that, you know, actually works as a hobbyist motorcycle, 200 is not enough. And I feel that it's really restrictive for, you know, our licensing system to not encompass different types of riders. Anyway, the difference between 200 and 250 is really not a lot. I can swear to you, if you bought a Pulsar 200, for example, and then you got your Class 2A and you bought a YBR 250, it's the same damn thing. It doesn't feel much different. So I mean, shifting the displacement limit up a bit, I don't see why they shouldn't do it. Don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of a tiered licensing system. I think it is a good way of ensuring that, you know, riders know exactly what the fuck they are doing before they hop on to a more powerful bike. For example, like me, during my first year of riding, I knew absolutely nothing about what the hell I was doing, and I got into an accident within my first year. And come to think of it, yes, if I had straight away gone out on a Hayabusa when I got my very first license, I probably killed myself then. But I was on an FZ16 and it wasn't very fast, so you know, when I got into my accident, it was really slow, and you know, I didn't get injured much, just a few bruises and scrapes. But there really ought to be a change in the way we tier our licenses to better reflect on the kind of bikes that are being sold in the market nowadays. You know, move on with the times instead of being stuck with the same old outdated system that we've been using all these years. Anyway guys, what do you think about this particular topic? Do you think that Singapore really should move on to changing our licensing system, or do you think it's fine the way it is? Let me know down in the comments down below. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, and of course, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye, peace out.